1 hour ago, Representative Jasmine Crockett confronted Hailey Bieber, wife of international pop sensation Justin Bieber, had not only cheated justice but possibly cheated in her own marriage. Crockett accused Hailey of crossing boundaries that went far beyond innocent appearances, suggesting that her loyalty to her husband had been compromised in ways the public could have never imagined. What followed wasn't just a legal grilling, it was a stunning public unraveling of secrets, deception, and an elite culture built on using influence for immunity. As the hearing began, there was a noticeable buzz in the air. Journalists, attorneys, and a cascade of curious spectators crammed into the courtroom, whispering about the gravity of what was at stake. Hailey Bieber, poised in her seat but visibly tense, appeared more like a reluctant participant than a defiant figure. Dressed in a tailored, muted ensemble, her usually radiant public persona gave way to a more subdued and serious demeanor. Opposite her sat Jasmine Crockett, armed with binders, statements, and what seemed to be an ironclad resolve. Crockett had come prepared, not just with facts, but with a mission. From the moment she took the floor, she made it clear that this wasn't a fishing expedition or a witch hunt. It was, in her words, about peeling back the layers of deception and privilege. The early minutes of questioning started with background inquiries: how Hailey met Diddy, the nature of their professional relationship, and whether or not she ever received gifts or invitations to exclusive events under his sponsorship. Hailey's responses were careful, occasionally evasive, and at times subtly defensive, but Crockett, seasoned in both courtroom dynamics and political interrogation, didn't allow for meandering answers. She redirected, clarified, and narrowed the scope with each follow-up, eventually drawing attention to the pattern of appearances Hailey had made at certain high-profile parties where individuals under federal scrutiny were also in attendance. It wasn't just about association, it was about purpose. Then, Crockett's tone shifted. She leaned in, not physically, but with the weight of her words, and said, "You were there to please power players, weren't you? Not by your will necessarily, but by the will of someone who has long learned how to puppeteer this system for his own survival. Are you telling us, under oath, that you never once questioned why you were asked to show up, to be seen, to smile, to pose next to men 3 times your age in rooms dripping with power and corruption?" The room fell silent. Hailey hesitated, her lips parted slightly, but no words emerged. It was the hesitation that spoke volumes. For the first time in the proceedings, the shimmer of celebrity dulled completely. Hailey attempted to regain composure. She insisted that she had no knowledge of any misconduct at the event she attended and that her presence was often out of courtesy, favor, or simple networking. But Crockett wasn't satisfied. She read aloud from text messages allegedly exchanged between Hailey and an associate of Diddy, her messages suggesting that certain appearances came with expectations, unspoken but clear. There were references to pleasing the right folks and making an impression. While the language wasn't explicit, Crockett pointed out the implications. Young women, especially those with public recognition, were being strategically used to charm and influence. At one point, Crockett raised a chilling question: is this the new face of trafficking, so subtle, so polished, so insidious that even the participants don't realize they're victims until it's too late? Hailey, visibly shaken now, glanced at her counsel. Her voice faltered as she responded, "I thought I was networking. I didn't know I was a pawn in someone else's game." But Crockett wasn't moved by pity alone. She emphasized that ignorance, whether genuine or convenient, cannot be an escape route when it comes to systemic exploitation, especially when names like Diddy are involved. The proceedings dug deeper into Diddy's methods, how he allegedly used his status to pull strings in the entertainment and political world. Witnesses had come forward describing a network of influence, not through policy or platform, but through persuasion disguised as glamour. Hailey was, according to Crockett's theory, one of many public faces used as currency to keep the machine moving. There was no accusation that Hailey herself broke laws or knowingly abetted crimes, but the bigger question being posed was damning: could silence and complicity also be forms of participation? Hailey's defense pointed to her age at the time of the alleged events, her lack of direct business ties with Diddy, and the broader culture of celebrity networking that rarely distinguishes between appropriate and inappropriate optics. But Crockett, not one to let semantics derail the conversation, asserted that this culture was in fact a camouflage. She argued that the music industry, fashion elites, and political figures had long relied on informal couriers of influence, women who were placed in certain spaces not just for visibility but for strategic allure. The line of questioning grew even sharper when Crockett turned to financial documents and event budgets showing accommodations, jewelry, and even security services arranged for select guests at these power-laden gatherings. In what became one of the most emotionally gripping moments of the day, Crockett recounted testimony from a former insider, someone who had previously worked for a prominent talent agency connected to both Diddy and Hailey. This individual described a system where invitations to luxury galas and island retreats came with unspoken tasks, suggesting that some guests were carefully selected not merely for celebrity appeal but for their ability to blend charm with silent submission. Hailey looked visibly disturbed as the account was read. Crockett followed up by asking if Hailey had ever felt uncomfortable during any of these events. Hailey responded slowly, "Yes, once or twice, but I didn't think I had the right to say anything. I didn't want to rock the boat." That admission prompted a brief pause. Crockett took a breath before stating, "That's what they count on. Your silence, your fear of rocking the boat." The room remained still. It wasn't just a line of questioning anymore, it was a reckoning. A mirror being held up not just to Hailey but to a culture that allowed discomfort to become the price of access. Crockett made it clear that her goal wasn't to drag Hailey through the mud, but to demand transparency in a world that too often hides behind glamour and curated narratives. Outside the courtroom, the public response was explosive. Social media lit up with fierce debate. Some sympathized with Hailey, seeing her as another young woman caught in a spider's web she never volunteered to enter. Others argued that privilege brings responsibility, and that her silence helped sustain a network of coercion and manipulation. Hashtags like #CrockettExposes, #HaileyKnows, and #Diddygate began trending across platforms. Even celebrities weighed in, some defending Hailey, others praising Crockett for her bravery and clarity in addressing uncomfortable truths. As more details emerged, connections between Diddy's alleged behavior and other young celebrities began to form a troubling pattern. Several former associates began to come forward anonymously, echoing the same stories: selective invitations, social grooming, promises of brand endorsements or career perks in exchange for appearances and silence. Crockett appeared on multiple news programs in the following days, reaffirming her position that the courtroom moment with Hailey wasn't about one woman, it was about the countless unnamed faces who had no one to speak for them. Her words struck a chord with viewers nationwide. "When you strip away the fashion and the followers and the filters, what are we left with?" she asked during an interview. "We're left with young women navigating spaces designed to use them. And if we don't start calling that out, we become complicit in their exploitation." These remarks only intensified the national discourse. Editorials began to frame the courtroom drama not as celebrity gossip but as a landmark moment in political accountability and the fight against elite abuse of influence. Meanwhile, Hailey remained largely out of the public eye following the hearing. A statement released by her legal team emphasized her lack of knowledge about any criminal conduct, reiterated that she was cooperating with authorities, and asked the public to refrain from speculation. Justin Bieber was notably silent, refraining from any public defense or acknowledgement. The silence only added more intrigue to the case. Crockett's opponents accused her of using the moment for political theater, but her supporters pointed to her consistency and her courage to challenge even the most untouchable names in society. In a rare and deeply humanizing moment, Crockett shared during a press briefing that she had also experienced moments in her past where she felt expected to stay silent to maintain her professional standing. "I know what it feels like to smile in rooms where you feel unseen," she confessed. "I know what it means to be told you're lucky to be invited, so don't complain." That raw admission added another layer of gravity to the courtroom exchange and showed that this issue, for her, was not theoretical, it was deeply personal. As the legal process continues and investigations expand, one truth remains unchanged: Jasmine Crockett's confrontation with Hailey Bieber has become a symbol. It represents a shift in how power is questioned, how celebrity is held accountable, and how silence can no longer be mistaken for innocence. Whether Hailey Bieber will face further scrutiny or emerge as a symbol of someone caught in a larger, darker game is yet to be seen. But what is certain is that Crockett's voice, sharp, unwavering, and driven by justice, has changed the narrative. If you found this deep dive into the courtroom drama and the power struggles behind the spotlight compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment where truth meets power, and justice refuses to blink.